Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm here with Colleen,
Hello.
and it's just us today. So we realized somewhere along the line that it had been a while since we've done a catch up. Um, and every time that we do these episodes with each other, we're like, we should do that more often because we always have a great time. So that's what we're doing. It's the end of the year as we're recording this, and so we're doing a catch up. I always find it funny though because it always takes us a little bit to roll into these episodes with each other. Um, I think it's also because we sometimes have a hard time like talking about ourselves. So that's a part of it. But we're excited and we know that we always have a great time during these episodes. So hello.
Hello. And I always wonder, well, what are we going to talk about, even though we talk all day, every day,
Yeah. Yeah. It
without any shortage of things to talk about.
Words are rarely an issue for us. Sometimes more me than you. I mean, the opposite. You're able to talk more than I am sometimes.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're glad to be here. I know that we did our next step episode relatively recently, but this is just a little bit different where we're just talking and see where the conversation leads us. So but I will be fully transparent. We have a list of questions that we prepared just in case we were like, where should we go next? Usually it's not a problem, but just in case. So we might read out those questions about ourselves. So yeah, it is the end of 2025. I'm just trying to like think back about this year, and you just got back from Japan not too long
Yeah.
ago, a couple of weeks ago. Um, so we have that little bit of catch up. We were talking about that yesterday in our classes and about the place that you're in energetically with it, and how that has been just a part of this cycle. So we'll get into that, but I am just trying to think about what has happened over the last year. And it's so funny because this year went so fast for a little while, and then it just feels like now the beginning of 2025 was like 10 years ago. Like I don't remember anything that happened from
Same
like,
here. As you were talking, I was like, okay, wait, what were we doing in January?
I know, right?
And yet it felt so fast, but it was such a long time ago.
I know. I know that they were talking about how time would just because astrologically time would just start to move very strangely, and it really has. Like I just have it like it literally feels like 10 years ago, but I remember having the conversations with everybody somewhere in like maybe June or July, and we're like, "Oh my goodness, this year has just flown by." And I feel like, January of 2025 was like yesterday. So time is moving very strangely.
Yeah. Well, and truthfully, on a personal level, I think that, every year since 2020, we have thought, okay, things are going to stabilize and, kind of normalize. And we are still in continued unprecedented events.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, there's always that adjustment of the ground underneath me, just stay stable, be kind, which is our, for me, a huge mantra. And oh, there you go. You've got the coffee cup. That's great. That really does support me in this instability of like what's going to happen next. And, one of the things you and I have talked about is how often or how we are realizing that because of the continued feelings of ups and downs and arounds and all of the different things going on in the world, that it has made it difficult to think about our plans ahead or dreams ahead. And I do remember that. I think that was something you and Rachel talked about almost at the
Right.
beginning of 2025. Like
Was that this year that
that was
the
this year.
manifestation, the dreams, all of that kind of thing really was a part of the mix? Yeah. I couldn't remember if that was 2025 or 2024.
Yeah, and I mean our dreams like in dream time, but I'm talking about what are our personal dreams. And we realized that because of everything changing so much on a continual basis, that we we and others had kind of put that part of possibility aside. And so that has been something that we've been trying to bring back both personally, but also in our work with others is like, let's get back to what our dreams are. Let's get back to how we manifest them. And it doesn't mean it has to be like a physical goal. It can be an emotional dream. It can be a dream of, I know for one that I use all the time is the ability to notice beauty. So like that's important to me that I'm able to just take those moments and notice beauty even when I'm super busy. So that's what I mean by dreams are they're so unique to each person. And what are they? And just getting back to that part of our our minds. I want my mind back.
Well, we're in this, I think, kind of in this space of like surviving the climate, that it's hard to go into that when we are in our everyday life of it. But it's also a bit of an act of resistance, if I'm honest. Like, how do we um, stay in that space of allowing ourselves to be? Because there is a level of joy within our dreams or our daydreams of what we would like to have happen. Or, I guess we'll just go ahead and get into what we've been talking about the last couple of days for you, because even you talking, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You're in that space of the blessings, the blessing exchange, something that came through from being able to look at it a little bit from the outside, something that's come through from really your trip to Japan, because it started to really come through when you stopped resisting the energy and the space that you're in and started to flow with it. And then this whole idea of the blessings and what we're going to be doing in the distance Reiki share. So why don't you talk a little bit about that that process, for lack of a better word, of your coming back, Japan, coming back from Japan, because I think we've talked a little bit about the actual trip, but now your reintegration,
Yes.
if you will, and what's been coming through for you.
Well, it's interesting as my mind is also processing that we will be posting this podcast after the fact of
Oh yeah.
what has come through for this last week, and it'll be really interesting to see how that unfolds through the month of December because what can't has come through. So what Robin's talking about is when I came back from Japan, I've been very, like it was a huge energetic shift. And originally I thought it was due to jet lag, which I don't typically have a lot of jet lag. Most of the time I travel pretty easily. So, like maybe a week or something after coming back. When I'm going somewhere, I have very little jet lag, but coming back is when I'll have reentry. But this time it just kept going. And finally I realized, wait, it's because my energy has shifted so much internally and I'm trying to get it to go back, and it doesn't really do that. So once, and Robin and I were talking about that in a way that, was finally like, oh, this is what this is. Like I need to allow myself to be where I actually am because anytime I come back from Japan in 3 weeks, really on Mount Kurama, um, the energy of it's really palpable. Like the changes and other students that talk about that say the same thing. So this time, I think I just didn't understand the entrainment of the energy that was happening internally until I finally stopped resisting it. And once I allowed it, because it felt very circular. So, for instance, we did our webinar right when I got back, and I really could not get my brain to talk in a linear way. Like I couldn't make it shift, which normally I can do. So because I'm a circular thinker anyway and speaker anyway, and so I'm pretty right brain, but normally I can hear myself and catch myself. And that day I couldn't, and finally just said to Robin, you need to take over this and get us on track. So that's when it was really notable to me that, like, okay, I'm just in a different place. I need to allow myself to be where I am and train to the frequencies that I have come back with. So then this last week, after the webinar, we did the gratitude ceremony. And we do the gratitude ceremony every year at the Reiki retreats in Sedona. Also, once a year at least that we do the gratitude ceremony here for our distance Reiki share. And this particular one really just amplified that gratitude within me. And then within several days was Thanksgiving, and I'm still facilitating Thanksgiving. So this time I say we only had 17 people. So, well, that's less than a lot of years.
Normal.
But it was so fun this year. And sometimes, it feels like so much work and really hard, but it was so nice this year. It felt like pretty effortless. And I think that was that gratitude energy. And then we received a beautiful email from a student just talking about how much the work that we share and the community that we are has made a difference in her life. And just the words she wrote, I could just feel the incredible blessings that she felt from us. And then in writing back to her, I wanted to convey how much our community is this blessing exchange for us. Like we receive as much as we share. And the exchange of blessings came in, and it was this amazing download that just dropped in. You know how sometimes they're like a little bit at a time, but this was all at once, just downloaded the awareness of blessing energy and the blessing exchange. Interestingly enough, we've done blessing ceremonies for years, and we also, the blessing exchange is a significant part of the teaching with Animal Reiki when we were writing that course where the animals came in. And originally, in my journey with the animals, the divine animal kingdom, I felt like I was going to be placing a blessing upon them. And in Robin's journey, the animals came to her and said, wait, it's an exchange of blessings. You share yours with us, and we share ours with you. And it became a really big part of the animal Reiki energy, and even one of the techniques where we place either people or animals in the center of the divine animal circle or the divine animal kingdom, and they just, you know, fill us with their blessings, and then we exchange ours with them. So that's a little bit of a backstory. So that's the kind of slow part of it where like like the understanding of what the energy of blessing exchange actually is. And then when it dropped in last week, well, now a month ago, um, it was this download of epiphany of understanding. And because all throughout December, we already knew that in our distance Reiki share, we were going to be doing the um, observing our path using eagle vision and mouse vision perspectives and then personal vision perspective. And this is a series of journeys where we soar above from eagle vision and look at our path behind, in front, on every side, where we can see it for long distances. And then we also look at our path completely from mouse vision. And that's what's immediate, like what's right in front of you, what are the details right in front. And then moving into a personal, like what is your perspective? So in this blessing exchange, it came in that this was first. Like we're doing 5 weeks. We do series now in our distance Reiki shares where we talk about a topic through a series about that topic. And then we do journeys with it. Which by the way, those are all posted on our YouTube and podcast channels every Thursday if you're wondering how you go back and find it. So the blessing exchange was this awareness that that was to be first in the distance Reiki share, that we would do a journey to really receive the energy of blessings. And as this was coming through, it became this greater awareness of how Reiki energy actually fills us with the energy of blessings, even when we can't feel it or we're struggling to find it, because we know, of course, it's easier to experience that and blessings when we're in an easier time of life, and it's very difficult when life is hard. And so we always want to acknowledge that. And so it was showing how the blessing energy could be an internal knowing, even if our external experience was not feeling it or feeling like we were experiencing it. And that the Reiki energy could fill it up like it's a life force energy. It's a frequency of the earth that can be empowered. And so we were receiving it individually, but then also empowering the frequency of blessings as the collective, like as our circle together, placing intention into the fields of co-creation, that we are inviting an empowerment of these blessings. So now what oh, well then, okay, and then there was an and then. We had 2 days of our Q&A sessions for our next step classes and our Explore the 12 Heavens classes. And this is, of course, the last month of the year-long training in those classes. So the Q&As are never planned. We just open it up to what is going to show up in those. So the first day, I think Robyn and I just looked at each other and like, who's going to do the invocation? And all of a sudden, the invocation dropped in, very channeled about receiving these blessing exchange energies. And then, so that was so powerful that then the next class, because we teach levels 1 through 3 and 12 heavens in 2 days. So then the next class we thought, well, the one before came out so good, I should just go ahead and do the invocation again. And that was the level 3 channel class. And I'm not kidding. I went into it and it was this incredible invocation that turned out to be more like a Reiki session for all the group of us to let go of the things we needed to let go of, to be in the blessings and receive what we needed to receive to be in the blessings. And it was so powerful. All of us afterwards were like, whoa, what was that? So then we decided the next day that I should continue and go ahead and continue channeling and in both the next levels and the 12 heavens classes. And in retrospect, because this is the day after that, it was definitely an alignment with that energy coming in from Japan. And I can now say I'm feeling more like settled into myself
Yeah.
because that energy from Mount Kurama is absolutely it's peace, it's blessing. If you ever see like the faces of the people, like the chief priest, when he does the blessing ceremonies for us, he just has that beautiful, glowing internal light shining through him as he's speaking and speaking to us. And it's like, really an amazing experience just to even see him. So I'm feeling more in alignment with myself this morning. And of course, now we're heading into the 4 weeks of the Eagle Mouse Vision journey. And that's taking us all the way back to our original discussion about what are our dreams
Yeah.
and going into the preparation for 2026 of starting the process and starting with those blessing fields and then consciously observing our path, what we're letting go of behind us, what we're bringing with us from our path behind us. That can be this lifetime, other lifetimes, ancestral histories. And then when we are looking at our path forward, what are our dreams? What is the next step? Can we see at a distance or is it just the immediate right now? And we're aware that in 2026, there's some incredible astrological changes that will support us in all of us in moving forward on our path again in another new way. And it's also going to be the year of the fire horse. So there's a lot of moving forward and new beginnings as both Saturn and Neptune move into Aries and that energy of new beginnings. So I'm going to be really interested to be aware of we're posting this after the series of the Eagle Mouse Vision journeys. So anyway, that's catching up to where I am in this moment. And boy, I love being aligned with the blessing exchange energies. It's like I'm so much more comfortable in my body now because that's what it was trying to get me to entrain to, like on a very conscious level, that's the energetic shift within me. And then now letting my whole body like really align with it.
So yeah, that's where Colleen's at. Um, and we were talking yesterday, and I'm actually kind of in the opposite space. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but um, as is common for us in this time of year with her coming back from Japan and then the things that I'm doing while she's in Japan with everything. But we were talking yesterday and, in the Q&As, which are actually more of like a group mentoring session. Because yes, there are questions that everybody can ask. However, that we ask and talk about subjects from all over the board and talk about these kinds of things. But also one of the things that we were talking about is how when you originally came back, you we have so much left brain things to do in this space, in this time of year for us. And when you originally came back, you were trying to fit into that bubble of left brain. And you had mentioned a couple times in this, in where, what you were just saying about how um that was a bit uncomfortable. Your resonances were off as far as like what you were trying to be and where you actually were. And then after that gratitude ceremony, when you finally realized, like, oh, wait, or maybe it was after the webinar, I don't know, but you're like, oh, wait, I'm actually in a different space and I need to allow myself to be in a different space. And once you did that, that's when things started to shift. And we had that conversation together. And so we were talking about how that is a really big piece of what we talk about in general when we're talking about our life cycles. That whether it's this kind of cycle that you're in right now, whether it's a cycle that is different than that, when you try to make it different than what it is, it can really cause a lot of that feeling of like, hitting your head up against the wall. And I use the parallel of like when you're in your Saturn return, that's a part of it, is like when you are trying to figure out what's going on for you in the shift of where who you were and who you're going to be, that it can feel like you're hitting your head up against the wall until you flow with the energy of it. That's when like the breakthroughs happen. And that's what kind of happened for you in that time frame, is like you were trying to make this space that you were in different than what it should have been, rather than when you flow with it and you take advantage of it. That sounds like the wrong word, but it's also true. You take advantage of like, oh wait, I'm in this certain frequency that has led me here from my time of being in these ceremonies in the energy of the mountain. Like I need to flow with that and allow the downloads to come through, allow the information to come through that's coming through for me right now, rather than trying to be in the, I have this and this and this and this to do. Um, and in the opposite sense, like it's not always just the flow of that spiritual aspects, growth, expansion, although many times when we come back from a ceremony, we come back from a Reiki class, we come back from um, a retreat or something like that, which yours check, check, and check, that we do find that our resonance or our signature or our energy is in this place of expansion. And we do have to be in that state of listening and allowing our expansion, allowing our entrainment to flow through us, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward. We can't try to make it to something different than it is. And in the opposite end of the spectrum, like that can be true for your left brain aspect. Or speaking of our Saturn return, for many of us, it's about like our material world. And so, those kinds of things that we're trying to establish, or when we're in a cycle of really productivity, left brain, getting our things done, that when we try to make it different than what that is, that can feel like that resonance is out of alignment too. Like, and those are just two examples of our cycles that we can be a part of in our human life. there's other cycles as well that we can be in that are also a part of this process. And sometimes it takes a little time to recognize it and then to flow with it as well. And I would say for me, being in Japan, well, you being in Japan, and we have registration, we have, all of the left brain things that I do a lot of anyway, but it's also particularly a pretty busy time for me in that space of like getting all the A, B's, and C's done of everything. So we generally are in a little bit of a different space when we come back together. But it also, luckily, in this partnership is very conducive because both things need to happen in a spiritual business. Both things need to um, they work well together as well. And generally speaking, we're both kind of those types of people. Although I think that we say that a lot, and then yet you have a very practical, you get things done as well, and I have a very deep spiritual side to me as well. And as you were talking earlier, I was like, I mean, I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart and that depth and the expansion of spirituality and that aspect. So we each have both that we talk about the you being right brain, me being left brain a lot, but actually we also have the other sides to us as well. So I don't want to make it seem like both of us don't do the other parts to the our lives, our business, or things like that. But in this in this time frame, I enter very much into my left brain, and you enter very much into your right brain. Um, and that can switch. But when Thanksgiving came around, after the gratitude ceremony, I was like, just so you know, like I need to take a few days away from my emails and away from all of our Reiki lifestyle systems and things like that for a little bit because I just need to like go into just being away from the computer screen for a bit, like and recharge or rejuvenate might be the right word for it. However, having said all of that, this is just a period, a time frame. Our year in general has looked a bit different than like, but like we said in the beginning, time is so weird right now that this last period of time in the last month or so feels like it's the whole year. It's hard to keep track of the months before that. Um, and that's okay. That's a part of it. But yeah, I've definitely been, more in like I'm getting the things done. I'm doing all the left brains and at the same time. Like, I have a third grader and I'm keeping track of the sports and the school and the homework and so there's all of those kinds of things that are also a part of my life that also lend to it's like, well, when I go upstairs from my office, I'm going into having her home and either going to sports or doing homework or making dinner or all of the things that are also a part of that many people identify with. I'm not the only person, obviously, that does those kinds of things. But it also is another part of this secular, cyclical, you know what I mean, aspect that we all traverse in all of our different ways. And at the same time, trying to fight against that and make that different than what it is would also be very challenging. I feel like if, there's obviously some times where it's like, well, I wish I could just spend all of my time in that space and energy and be in that space of being in that entrainment, that energy. And I can get there with, when I'm here in my office, and I can be in that space when I go upstairs. And then at the same time, like there's so much of that left brain aspect that I need to be in this place. I also try not to fight against that, even though there is sometimes the longing of like wanting to be in the um the other space. And I'm also, I will say, moving into my Uranus opposition. And so it actually touches on some of those subjects as well. So I can kind of feel it coming in even a little bit more with all of that. And then yet, if I try to make it all different than what it is, that's when that like miss resonance um happens for me. And so it is also just a part of our cycles of where we're at, and they can change throughout the year, right? Like they can change throughout the year, they can change from week to week. When we're in the energy work of a Reiki class, like, I definitely have a different perspective when I am out of my office. Like, you go upstairs and I'm just kind of in the Reiki, and you're in that space. And so that's not to say it's not like that. But also, like, fighting against it is sometimes resistance is futile. Anybody who's watched Star Trek knows that quote. Resistance is futile. And so it's always interesting to, we talk about life cycles quite a bit. And so, yeah, it's always interesting to kind of look at the cycles that we might be in that moment, in our lives, in the years, in the, all of those kinds of things. And also the fact that, you might have asked me 6 months ago and I might have been having a whole different conversation about that. But in this moment, I think that's the cycle that we're each in, even if it's going to be for a short amount of time.
And I think over the course of all of the years and having been through all the different cycles, having been, well, really a lifetime, but where I've been actively in, spiritual study and is that one of the biggest understandings is that every cycle is spiritual.
Yeah.
And that's where I think sometimes, I remember when I was in your position and I'm wanting the depth of the hours to spend in spiritual study and contemplation and journeys and meditations. And I had kids and
Yeah.
a 30-acre farm and animals and a full-time business and all of the things. And now I can look back and realize that cycle was as spiritual, and the energy was teaching me through those cycles about what it is. And then, of course, I went through a cycle when you guys got older and we were still on the farm, and I was really able to be in that place of hours in spiritual study and meditation. And I would sit under our big tree and just spend time with the animals and the nature spirits. And I spent 2.5 years with Jan Inglesmith, my teacher. We would both, she was in her place and I was in mine, but we would get up at 3:30 in the morning every day and meditate for maybe 2 hours in every kind of weather and in everything. And it was such a gift to be able to be in that time. And then my mom got sick, and I had to, we sold the farm and moved in to take care of her. And that changed in a
Yeah.
day. Like in one day, I was out of that cycle and into the cycle of incredible busyness and caregiving that actually lasted 7 years. Although not like
Yeah.
intensity of the first couple of years of it. And so that's when Reiki came in and taught me that it's all the cycles are equally as spiritual, with just a different experience of what that means. And
Yeah, I thank you for saying that, because I do agree. And I also don't have um a separation of all of it. Like I do, and probably just because of this teaching around it, that, you've talked about with it all is that there isn't really a separation, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So there isn't an absence of the feeling of connection. I'm just in it differently than I might be when I'm in the kind of maybe state that you're in current, like in this moment. And so yes, I totally agree with that. And using it. And I'm also, when it comes to spirituality, like you can see the difference in the two of us being Pisces, you, and Aries, me, like the way that we express it and feel it and all of that is always going to be a little bit different um around it anyway. But I also feel like I am in that when I am mothering my child or being a friend to my friends or a spouse to my husband and living my life and who I am in this world, even in the practical, aspects of how I'm showing up as a parent, how I'm, all of those things are all still a part of this lifestyle, of this spiritual lifestyle, of this Reiki lifestyle. And so yeah, I agree with you on that. And that it gets to be, and that you get to feel connected through your practicality. It just doesn't look like meditating for 2 hours. It looks like how it looks like right now. The left brain stuff I enjoy. The left brain stuff I still am channeling. The left brain stuff I'm still creating community. I'm still like all of those things are important piece of how this all operates. And I'm also very aware of that too.
Yeah, I think I don't know, for me, it took me years to kind of settle into it all and recognize that the practicalities of my life were as spiritual as those times when I was in depth. And then now, currently, how it's merged is I'm very aware of, we always call it applied spirituality, because I actually really like being practical in life. I really like um, being able to, be present every day in the to do things like I like to do. And speaking of which, that's another one that took me years to kind of realize about myself, because I'm pretty ADD and I like being busy. And so I used to feel like if I was being busy all the time, I wasn't still. And so finally learning about how my mind works and what I actually like to do is finding the stillness in the busyness. And that has been such a huge gift for me to understand that, the times that I've tried to change that in myself, like, okay, I'm going to be still. And I think I've said many times, my mother-in-law is always telling me from the time we were kids. I met my husband, we've been married 50 years this year. I met his parents when I was 15. And throughout our entire relationship, and I love her. We have a great relationship. She has always told me I need to rest. So you need to rest. So, of course, she's like a major influence in my life as a woman. So, of course, I would try to take her advice. And then I'd be sitting there going, am I done resting yet? Can I get like a kid? Can I get up now? And so that's another aspect about this conversation that I feel like I have finally settled into. And the other flip side of that is also learning to be comfortable when I am resting, and that it's okay how I rest. Like, what does that mean for me? But that took a long time too. like, watching TV, as you know, we've talked about this many times. I'm like, as much as I like doing it, I've had a struggle thinking that that was a valuable way to spend my time, like feeling comfortable and people talking about binging entire shows for, a weekend. And I'm thinking, yeah,
Oh, I can't binge them for a weekend, but I binge shows. It's while I'm doing other things though.
yeah. And for me, it's been like having to learn to be comfortable that I enjoy that. And then the
Yeah.
times when I'm like, I'm actually not enjoying this. I need to get up and be busy. As like I say, I feel like a little kid. Can
If
I?
I didn't have to, I would be totally comfortable binging a show for a weekend. Like, I don't have the space in my life to be able to do that because, like, I've got all sorts of things to do. But if I didn't, I would totally be fine with that. I would totally binge a show over. Now I have to like do it on like while I'm cooking or like, getting my things done around the house and things like that. But just because of the nature of my life right now. But yeah, I would totally be comfortable doing that. Be like, sweet, or at least a day. I would totally be comfortable doing that in a day and like move from my bed to the couch, maybe back to the bed. But I have no problem with that.
I know, and I always used to think, well, maybe it was because of how I was raised, because, my mom was the type, she was like, get up, get your chores done, get outside, come home at dark. And, I'm in that generation. And, like sleeping in was sleeping till 8. That
Yeah.
was a Saturday morning,
Yeah.
that was it. And, years later, I said, Mom, you just always are telling me I have to be working. She's like, no, I don't. I think so. So,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we always laugh at how different we are in this way. And it's funny too, because like you didn't have that level of pressure with me, but like as a teenager, I mean, I was a really busy athlete. I had a job. I was like a good student. So I don't think that like there were many times where I rested like that until probably after college. There was probably a period of time where I could do that a little bit. But yeah, but it's funny that you say that because I also say there's a little bit of a garbage person in me. Like for those that are garbage people, they totally know what I'm talking about. I got a twinge of that, I'm gonna say. There's a thing going around with like TikTok about type A and type B people. And then there's like a whole other level of type C. I've been seeing that a little bit. And then there's like the people that are like, I'm an type A minus or type B plus person. And I'm kind of in that range. Like, I don't know if I'm an A minus or a B plus, but I'm somewhere in there. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but the type A personalities, do you know?
well, I do know about that because I've
Okay. You're
always
probably type
identified
A.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably type A, but I'm definitely like I don't know if I'm A minus or B plus, but like I could totally justify like sitting on the couch for an entire day or my like I said, my bed and just like binging a Netflix show. Just like don't have because you know what it is? I think for me, I have to have like that rest. To
Yeah.
me, and we had a podcast with somebody an Ayurvedic practitioner, and she was talking about our different like Ayurvedic profiles.
Oh, right.
And it was so helpful because I was like, no, I have to have that rest or I cannot function. And you were actually like a different kind that was like you didn't have to have that rest in that same way where like I have to unplug for like even if it's just for a day or even a morning. And it was so helpful because I'm like, oh, that is the way I am. Speaking of trying to fight, both of us fighting what we naturally are, because you're the opposite. You're like, that doesn't work for me. Like I can't have that, or I'm fighting against my nature. And like for me, I'm like, well, I have to take that time or I can't or I'm like operating at a lower level like an 80% if I don't fill up to 100 for even just a little period of time, I'm operating at 80%. And like for you, it's kind of different. And society tells you you should be like me. And I still have a little bit of the shoulds of like, well, I can't take any time off to rest, but I'm kind of over that now at this point. And and also because I don't want to all the time. I just need a little bit of time, here and there. Um, and for you, it's like it's kind of the opposite, but it's funny that we both have the shoulds of like you should rest or you shouldn't rest or like, that kind of thing. So anyway, a little bit of a
What's
difference.
really funny is Nick, my son, her brother, and I just had this conversation, and I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but he was like, yeah, so, that work ethic is
I
handed
mean, totally.
down.
Totally. I mean, yeah, like, I was talking to my husband the other day and I was like, he was talking about how like I really need some rest. And he's like, nobody thinks you don't work hard enough. Like nobody thinks that. Like I don't you put that on yourself. Like you work harder than like 99% of the people that I know. And so he's like, so why are you like worried about that? Like nobody thinks that. Oh, okay.
So
Work on that.
therefore, we do Reiki.
Yeah, exactly.
Manage
Right.
our minds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Manage our
It's so
minds.
true. It's so
Yeah.
true.
And it's so funny because you see so many other people and, now having social media the way we do and see so many other people having these same kind of conversations
It's so
and,
true.
and how you navigate through it.
Yeah.
And it has been so helpful for me to understand how my brain works
Yes.
and understanding being ADD. I would say I used to be ADHD. Now I'm not. Now I'm more just ADD. I don't have the hyperactivity that I used to have. Um, and how it just actually is so helpful to have an understanding of it, that it's just how it's like you say, how each of us functions. And then, part of course, what we do is we add Reiki to help us align with ourselves.
Yeah.
That to me has been so beneficial, because part of being ADD, I think for me, is that constant next possibility.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I could do this, and then I could do that, and then I can do this, and then I can do that. And it's a constant thread of ideas and possibilities that then I have to navigate through to bring it into practicality.
Yeah.
And
Well, but my husband is ADD, so I am and I'm not.
you're surrounded.
I'm pretty neurotypical with it. I mean, everybody has their things, but I'm pretty neurotypical. And so we have a lot of these conversations as he's also kind of understanding and himself too. And really what it is, like you said, Reiki is what we're helping ourselves to do with it is help to release the cultural conditioning because we all
Yeah.
have it in all the different ways. And learning about, neurodivergence versus neurotypical, which I think that word is changing. Those two words are changing, but for, that's, I think I can't think of what else is being used now in this time frame. But uh I was thinking as you were talking earlier about, we've talked about how can you be in your being while you're in your doing. And I had a whole download about that. And then it was funny, I was reading a book by Ram Dass, and he has a lot to do about that. For you, the doing is helpful to help you get into your being. Like
Yes.
you reach, and this is something that's true with a lot of people with ADD, is that to achieve flow state, you actually need something else to be happening to help your mind achieve the flow state. So Sean and I talk about how he listens to podcasts when he needs to do like work where like he might be writing, he might be, doing the kind of left brain stuff. And I can't. Like I can't listen to people talking. I can't even really listen to music unless it doesn't have lyrics because I can't think with both things going on to get into flow state. I can listen to like meditation music. That's actually super helpful. Um, Especially certain frequencies, but like he actually needs that to get into flow state where people are talking. Otherwise, he can't shut his brain off to the multitude of things that he will think about at the same time and the multitude of possibilities he will go into. And so it's also like for you, sitting still would be hard because that's not how your mind works. For me, sitting still is very helpful. Like I need that, and that is actually how I can get into that very peaceful state. Is by not necessarily movement stillness, but like being in that still state, to be able to help me be in flow, to help me be in that state of peacefulness, all of those kinds of things. But it's actually the opposite because of the way that your mind works for most people. You hear that a lot about people with ADD. And then sometimes, we talk about the differences in the way our brains work quite a bit. Um, and it's just always so fascinating for both of us. We're both like, really?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, because I'm like Sean, I need multiple conversations going on at once.
yeah, you need the tabs open. And for
I
me, I
have,
have
I
too many
have
tabs
multiple
open,
tabs
and I'm
open.
like, oh, that's too many tabs.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, too fun. Well, it has been such a year of, I guess, the astrological conditions and changes and the world around us that it's so nice to be in this place of kind of, I feel like what we're talking about is settling into ourself and that alignment, because that has also been what has really been coming in all of our invocations, all of our journeys is an alignment. And um, by that, what I see in my mind and mean with that is actually the energy from above, the energy from below coming through our bodies in a very like aligning everything. Where sometimes it can feel like my body is, you know, uh, skewed isn't maybe the right word, but a little bit out of like one chakra is in one space and the other chakra is a little bit to the left or the right of it, and that alignment comes in to just bring it all into like everything settling in. And I love that there's this sense of allowing, of being where we actually are, and kind of this idea of looking forward right now, that through it all I'm really interested and curious about 2026. And neither of us are astrologers, but I kind of know enough of, my mom was an astrologer back in the 70s. So I've had a lot of years of exposure to it, but like I can't take somebody else's chart and give a fluent reading. Um, but really listening to some of the things that are coming up, I think 2026 has so much potential, but it's also new beginnings. And so I think there's a part of us that just can't see what's ahead. And so, in that alignment and getting comfortable with self is that ability to just be okay with where we're at. So, sometimes there's like moving ahead means standing still, like just be in the space you're in, continue to listen, which can often feel like limbo. And I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what's ahead. And then other times you can take that one next step. And then other times you can see your whole path ahead of you. And in the cycles, sometimes you're in that slow growth, and other times there's so much happening, it can be overwhelming. So that settling into just right where we're at is, I'm thinking as I'm speaking that, we're going to be doing a burning bowl ceremony in the next couple of weeks. So that'll be during our distance Reiki show. We don't have the date set yet. Um, I need to check with Lori Shansky and see when she's available for the sound healing part of it. But anyway, that'll be coming up, and another level of letting go, because that's also, I would say, going back to what we've been experiencing the last couple of days, there was a huge amount of letting go.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't necessarily know what I was letting go of. Like the letting go didn't identify itself with, oh, I'm letting go of this and I'm letting go of that. It just felt like the energy of Reiki came in, and it was lifting the letting go of where I had any blocks to this blessing energy and this um, eagle mouse vision energy of seeing our path, like what's behind that we're taking with us, what's behind we're not taking with us, what's ahead. And in one of the invocations, it was so interesting to watch this piece of it. I'm sure you noticed too, Robyn, was in each class in the path ahead, like one of the classes, there was an absolute threshold that everybody stepped over. And like what's behind is complete, stepping over the threshold into the new beginnings. And then in some of the other groups, it was showing the choice of, are you ready to step over the threshold? Have you let go of what's behind you? Are you ready for what's ahead of you? And to look. And one of them, it was opening a door to see what's on the other side of the door, and the decision of stepping through it, or like just opening it and checking it out. So I thought that was really interesting too. And then we talked about the level of letting go. And in the fourth invocation on this same subject, because each one was channeled and different. And in the fourth one, even to the last few sentences, it went into even more letting go, which I thought was really interesting. But for me, I didn't have like any like specifics of what I'm letting go of. I was just observing that Reiki was coming in, and I could physically feel the releases happening. I could physically feel the letting go happening. And I know that it was very specifically in my throat.
Yeah, definitely yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, it was like, oh man, what's going on in my throat chakra?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I get to express myself. It's not like, I
No,
mean,
yeah.
listen to us now.
Yeah.
We're not short of words. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I don't know what you thought about all that too.
Yeah. Well, and the threshold came through, yeah, in two of them. And then yesterday in the 12 heavens was interesting because you were having throat chakra issues until we raised up until the into the higher heavens. And then it was fine. And then we came back down, and then you had them again. So it was like either a third, or it might have even happened in the first heaven at the end. But it was in the third heaven or the first heaven awareness that happened. But I agree with you. I think and maybe it's a part of why the the time is working so strangely about, we don't know what's next is one of the things that caught my attention. I think that is a part of the time frame that we're living in. Um, and there's also, yeah, things just feel a bit unpredictable in general, but we've been living in what feels pretty unpredictable times in the last 5 years. Um, and then a part of I guess the beauty of that is that it does cause us to have the awareness of presence a little bit more. And I am, and both of us are, and we've talked about this, is that there is a level of being comfortable and liking being in a little bit of a future minded space. I think that always is something that we talk about with people who are a lot of people who are neurodivergent, is that they are very comfortable being in a future minded space. And that's but in a very evolved way. And I think that is a really big it's a big blessing to have people on our planet that are doing that. The possibilities, like you said. Um, and so neither of us are uncomfortable being in that space, but I do also think that being in the place that we are in, of like, we don't know what's coming next, and time is weird. So like the past feels far away and so close at the same time. And yet the future feels like, what does that even look like? We're in a place of just having to like be where we're at in this moment. And the benefit of that is that you get to move into an acceptance of ourselves. We get to examine and listen of where we're at, and examining and listening to where we're at a lot of times comes with the idea of letting go of who we should be based on our cultural expectations. And so I think that's a piece of what we are all, also, so many of us are traversing in this time frame of like diving into our authentic self, our authentic way of being, and trying to not make that different than what it is, acceptance of it, understanding of it. And, we had those conversations in the last couple of days too, in a lot of different ways. We might not have like put it all together in that way, but a lot of different ways of like, oh, wait, I am just, first of all, I'm different than who I've been trying to be. The maybe the like the masks, for lack of a better word. And so I'm moving into the comfort of like allowing myself to be who I am. And that does come with, the part of time that we're in right now comes with that. That's a part of being in presence. Because it's a part of the work that I think so many of us are doing. And a lot of times just it's like even subconsciously, like we didn't know that we were in that space, but you're hearing that a lot of like, I'm just I'm just not, like, I'm tired of not accepting myself for who I am, and I'm letting go of these culturally created expectations. And these conversations of like, in spirituality, like you said, we are so much of the time like expected to be in that stillness. And yet this conversation of like, I think understanding your mind has been a big piece of it, but also like, well, yeah, but I'm not a person that is going to do that. It's not who I am. And trying to be that, going back to the original part of this conversation of trying to be different than who I am, creates that disharmony within me. It creates that like schism of resonancy of who I actually am and who I'm trying to be. It's not meshing, it's not it's not working together. So I have to drop into me being who I actually am. And so like that is a part of where we started with this conversation of where you're at in this moment coming back from Japan, but then also on the larger scale of like but I'm not a still person, and that's okay. Like I can still be, I mean, obviously, you can still be this person that has this spirituality come through you, and first and foremost, obviously, always to ourselves, and still be a busy person, like still have a hard time being in that stillness that you were talking about earlier. Um, and you're just seeing that a lot. And that's probably a benefit of moving through these times, whether it's the unprecedented times or whether it's the level of weird time that we're having right now. And the planets, as hard as it can be, the shift in the era that we're in.
Well, and I think it's also like allowing our gifts to emerge
Yeah.
is an outcome from it. And like for me, in that recognition of, you know, as I've said many times, I wake up awake
Yeah.
and I wake up awake. And truly, right now, I am so excited about all of the writing that we're doing and I'm doing. I mean, I wake up and the first thing I think about is what I can be writing today. And if any of you listening haven't noticed, we have been putting out, we've been writing blogs every week and doing these series in our distance Reiki shares and all the new information coming in our classes and the different things coming through. And I'm so excited about it all and loving everything. Like even though we say, "Oh, I'm working a lot of hours," I don't feel like I'm. It's like what I want to be doing the most right now. I'm so excited about it, and so like it's just like dialing in of, oh, I can't wait to get into this because on top of it all, it's all inquiry and curiosity, and then getting to listen to what comes through because it's also channeled that we're getting to learn as we're doing it. So it's all such a fascinating subject and fascinating how it all works. And um, the endless, like, how does this Reiki energy work anyway? Like it's just mind blowing after this many years to be in it and having these conversations and then how Reiki has, we talk about it being mind management all the time. Like for me, it's mind management. Like
Yeah.
I use it every day for,
Yeah.
okay, clarity of mind so that I can, you know, even even for my to-do list, like it's like, okay, what is this going to be? And then it's like, how does Reiki work? And so excited about the communities that we are all building together because I see that as probably even a huge expansion in 2026. Like like I'm seeing a change in the global Reiki communities of unifying with one another and this support that's going around globally for all of us coming together and kind of leaving behind some of the old ways of this is the one right way and we have the best way into it all works and wow, check it out, you know. And it's been so fun, which for Robin and I, of course, we get to experience so much of that in our podcast with our guests because we find all the commonalities that we all have, even though there's differences in techniques or even differences in philosophy around our Reiki businesses or Reiki practices or even businesses. And so I'm hearing myself say this as I'm saying it, that is now I'm really like, oh yeah, more Reiki community as, the global unity and unification. It's like, I feel like that's it.
Yeah.
That's that's for me where it feels like just had an epiphany of,
The
oh,
blessings. Blessing exchange.
blessing exchange. There, oh,
There it is.
there it is.
Well, I think that that is a beautiful note to leave this episode off on.
Yes.
Yeah, as we are going to be recording another one in just a little bit and another opportunity for that blessing exchange with our global Reiki community.
I love it.
Yeah,
See, that's what I mean by I'm always just fascinated by how this works.
yeah,
And, having those insights of like, oh, that's I care deeply, we care deeply about that.
yeah,
That to me is such a beautiful path to walk.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really
So, okay. I better stop talking because I can feel it's coming through.
is. Oh, yes. Well, and we would keep going, but we have some of the practicalities of our lives to attend
Yeah.
to.
Practicalities.
So, okay, well, thank you so much, everyone. And like I said at the beginning, why don't we do these more often? It's
What?
always so fun. Maybe because we talk so much in our lives, we forget that like, we have these conversations, so we forget that, oh yeah, we should record them. So, yeah. All right. Well,
And
thank you so
also this will be Happy New Year.
It will. Yes. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, everyone. As Colleen said, we will be having a burning bowl at some point in the new year. We don't have that on the schedule in this moment, but we'll get it on there soon because we want people to know it'll be during our distance Reiki share. It's usually the first couple of weeks of the new year. So um, just look out for the information, the emails about that. We'll post it after if you can't attend live. We'll give all those details out. So we did just finish our gratitude ceremony too. Even though it's the week of Thanksgiving, you can use it at any point. It's always a really beautiful thing to go into as well. Our next step classes and our Explore the 12 Heavens class is opening registration. Or registration closes January 18th, and first classes are the week of the 20th, so the 21st and 22nd. So you can go to our website to find out more about that as well. Amazing, amazing classes, and they're a year long, and they're additional Reiki skills, exploration, growth, healing, all of those kinds of things. And then we always have our Reiki classes, like our Reiki 1 and 2, things like that, in the beginning of the year. So, because it's always, one of those things that many of us set intentions around. So we have human Reiki 1 and 2, human Reiki master, animal Reiki 1 and 2, animal Reiki master coming up the end of January, beginning of February. And then we also, Colleen will be teaching Karuna Reiki master. Is that the beginning of March?
It's mid-February.
Mid-February. That's right,
But William and
mid-February.
I are
Yeah.
teaching Karuna Reiki in Hawaii the end of March.
Yes, at the end of March. So you can look out that you have to look for on reiki.org, although we do post it on our social media. So you can find it there as well. But go to reiki.org to find more information about the Hana Hawaii in-person class slash experience,
7 day.
7 day with Colleen and William in Hawaii. All right, I think those are the announcements, and the other side of us and our business. And thank you all so much for listening. We of course appreciate you all. This is the end of 2025 when this is releasing, and we couldn't be here without you. We love our community dearly and love this experience that we get to have on this planet in this time.
And with each of you, blessing exchanges.
Yeah. So thank you
Yeah.
all so much. All right, lots of love, and we will see you on the next one.